Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be in a nice, moderate climate of Taiwan with air conditioning after the intense heat of London over the past week. It's an honor to speak here at the 10th Cathay Sustainable Finance and Climate Change Summit. And I'd like to congratulate Cathay on this important milestone. 10 years signals that Cathay is in this for the long term. This isn't just a trend, this is commitment. So congratulations. 10 years gives us an opportunity not only to celebrate progress, but also to ask the important question of what next. Because the last decade has been about accelerating renewable energy deployment, for us at least. The next decade needs to be about something bigger. Building energy resilience and reducing energy dependency. For those who haven't met me before, I'm Sam Kimmins. I'm Director of Energy with Climate Group. Climate Group works with businesses and governments around the world to drive climate action fast. And you may know us through RE100, which is our largest program in the Asian context. RE100 now represents over 400 companies committed to using 100% renewable electricity. Together, their demand is bigger than that of South Korea. If we were a country, we would be the 8th largest country in the world by electricity demand, which sends an incredibly powerful signal to both the supply industry, also to governments and to the finance community. Businesses want renewables. Renewables make business sense. And we are delighted that 39 Taiwanese companies have stepped up to this challenge from early members, including Cathay, through to global giants TSMC and Delta, and more recent joiners, including General Interface Solution. So great to see Taiwan being one of the leading nations in terms of the growth of RE100. RE100 remains as important as it did when it started in 2014, and we're committed to its long-term mission, but our work is also evolving. Last week, we launched the 24/7 Carbon-Free Coalition, which is focusing on how businesses can help create energy systems that can deliver clean energy every hour of every day. And we're delighted that Cathay Financial Holdings and Cathay Life are now part of that work, joining the coalition alongside other new partners, Unilever, Princeton Digital Group, and our existing partners, including Google, who are here today. This reflects Cathay's continued leadership on sustainable finance, but also on taking action within their own organization. So thank you very much on both of those paths. We've also launched the Smart Energy Coalition, which focuses on energy efficiency, digitalization, storage, and demand flexibility. And I'm particularly pleased that Taiwan once again is stepping up, with companies including E-Link, Sogo, Tridal, TCI, and TCC Holdings, all helping to lead this effort. And we couldn't do any of this without our local partner, SIA, the Shanghai Institute for Economic Research. So thank you to the team there. Together, these initiatives are about driving the change, not just towards clean energy, but about a clean, smart, and resilient energy system. So let's take a step back. These are satellite photos that 6 years ago people would have gone, where's that? Now they are on the news pretty much every day. Over the past 5 years, we've not had one but two major energy crises caused by the war in Ukraine and Iran, and focusing on constraint in fossil fuels. Across Asia, the energy transition is increasingly being driven not just by climate concerns, but by energy security. Countries across the region that remain heavily dependent on imported fossil fuels are exposed to price volatility, geopolitical risks, and supply disruptions. Japan saw LNG import costs surge following the invasion of Ukraine, despite importing less gas. Less import, but still increased costs. South Korea incurred an estimated $17 billion equivalent in additional power sector costs during the 2022 energy crisis due to LNG price spikes. Meanwhile, Pakistan has faced energy shortages. The Philippines continues to grapple with huge power price spikes and shortages of fuel. And in both of those latter cases, this has driven a solar revolution with small businesses and households voting with their wallets and leading to explosive growth in rooftop solar and battery deployment in both those countries, which is having a notable dent in demand for fossil fuels. The energy transition is happening there, not because of climate, but because of energy security and cost. For Taiwan, these issues are particularly important. Not only is this an island economy, which will import more than 95% of its energy, it's one of the world's most important manufacturing centres. Reliable, affordable, resilient homegrown energy is central to its future competitiveness. For the past decade, the question was, how do we add more renewable energy? This remains essential. But the defining question of the next decade is, how do we build energy systems that can run on clean power every day, every hour of every day? 24/7 carbon-free energy is not just a nice-to-have for Taiwan. As an island, it's a key factor in future success. As the anti-renewables lobby loves to keep pointing out, much to our surprise, the sun doesn't shine at night and the wind doesn't always blow. I mean, who knew? But this is a very real issue as we get to higher percentages of renewables on the grid. We need to plug those gaps. So on this graph, you'll see the dotted line represents demand curve. The blue is wind, the yellow is solar. And the bits with white space underneath the bits with green underneath the demand curve are the bits where that demand is not being met by wind and solar. This is a very real issue. If you're planning on having a 100% renewable economy, you've got to plug that gap. Across the world, we have to plug that gap. And that is the question that we are trying to answer. This is the same graph from a report released today by Energy Tag, looking at Taiwan specifically, and this is the gap between supply and demand of renewable energy versus energy demand. So I would recommend downloading that report from Energy Tag to find more detail. We wanted to create a new initiative that meets emerging grid needs and business needs without disrupting the progress of RE100. So we've launched the 24/7 Carbon-Free Coalition. This is not a replacement for RE100. RE100 stays the same. Those companies will continue to work towards 100% renewable supply on an annual basis, and will continue driving vast amounts of renewables growth on the grid. The 24/7 Carbon-Free Coalition asks a slightly different question. Is how do we ensure clean electricity is available every hour of every day when we need it? And it's designed for companies who are doing very well on their RE100 journey and are looking for the next step. I am delighted that you will recognize names on this list, with Cathay Financial Holdings and Cathay Life joining us at London Climate Action Week last week, alongside Unilever and Princeton. And you will also recognise a familiar face there, the photo at our launch. Notice I'm able to wear a suit here In London, I had to wear short sleeves. It was monstrously hot. I want to quickly take a step back and touch on priorities moving forward. And I want to first mention the ugly duckling of the energy conversation, which is energy efficiency. It's often ignored. Energy efficiency has to be the foundation of both corporate and national energy strategy. We need to be targeting not the 1% energy efficiency gains that are being achieved by businesses throughout the world at the moment. The IEA suggests that we need to be achieving 2% per year energy efficiency gains in order to stay on track with climate progress. That was 2 years ago, before the AI boom dramatically increased energy demand. Smart Energy Coalitions, the group that we bring together, the members are achieving on average 8% energy efficiency improvements per year. This is possible. We should be aiming for that. We often hear from proponents of AI that 40 to 50% energy efficiency gains are achievable by deploying AI technology to our businesses. Well, given the amount of energy that is used by AI, it's got quite a big payback to do. So let's see over the coming years if we can move the needle from 1% improvements to 8% improvements, and then exceeding 10% improvements in energy efficiency, and fulfill the promises that are being made. The second priority is storage and demand flexibility. We need to move beyond just looking at wind and solar and the low-hanging fruit. The cost of storage has dropped dramatically over the past years. We need to start deploying that at scale. We're already seeing this happening across Australia. We're already seeing that happen at household level in Pakistan. We're seeing companies like Google developing 24/7 data centers, for example, in Minnesota, where they've deployed as much storage that was for that one data center as was deployed across the entirety of the US the year before, and deploying a technology that provides not 2 hours, not 4 hours, not 8 hours, but 100 hours of storage. The technology is improving dramatically. We need this for our energy resilience. We need this to be deployed at scale. Businesses need to become active participants in the energy system. Factories, offices, and data centers can increasingly align demand with renewable energy generation. And this is where smart energy becomes important, because the most successful companies will combine renewable energy with efficiency, storage, digital technologies, and intelligent demand management, and making this pay for itself by selling electricity back to the grid when costs are high, buying it when costs are low. The third priority I was going to suggest was going to be electrification. It is important, but I wanted to bring us back to the basics. We need a step change in renewable energy, renewable electricity deployment. I want to put this into context. Vast investment went into Taiwan's semiconductor and electronics industries. That worked. You're a global giant when it comes to electronics and AI. You are the envy of the world. It is the core of your economy. But the next challenge is making sure you can power that industry over the coming decade. Energy demand is outstripping deployment of renewable energy. It's outstripping the deployment of energy, full stop. This is not a technical issue. The technology is there. It's not so much a finance issue. The finance community is behind it. But there are constraints. We're kind of creating our own Straits of Hormuz through bureaucracy and through lack of resourcing. We're hearing about companies who are concerned about, giant companies concerned about, they're not giving their sustainability team the resource to employ the 1 to 2 more people it requires to actually drive their transition to renewables. We're hearing about government departments that are chronically under-resourced. And this isn't just, I'm not focusing on Taiwan here, I'm focusing around the region. We're hearing out government departments that are struggling to issue land and sea permits for solar and wind, under-resourced utilities and grid operators overwhelmed by grid connection issues, projects that are stuck in the pipeline because they can't get a permit for 7 years to deploy, they can't get a grid connection for their project and therefore can't get the finance. Here in Taiwan, we are, when I first came here 10 years ago, Taiwan was being heralded as the site of a wind gold rush. It was very, very exciting. We're now seeing wind companies are actually leaving the market. 6 wind companies recently left the market. We need to unblock our Straits of Hormuz and remove those regulatory barriers, remove the bureaucracy, and really put the resource into the transition that it needs to really accelerate what is needed to meet that increasing electricity demand and exceed that increasing electricity demand. Of course, none of this happens without investment, which is why institutions like Cathay are so important. The barriers are not technology, it's confidence and capital. Renewable energy, storage, smart grids, and industrial decarbonisation all require major upfront investment. And this is why it is so important that Cathay is bringing this group together every year to really focus the finance industry on decarbonisation and on the opportunities that are available from a low-carbon economy. I see my time's up. I want to make one more quick point. This is a huge opportunity for Taiwan. This is not just something you're buying, you're growing expertise. And as an island economy, there is huge value if Taiwan succeeds in solving the challenge of renewables integration, storage, flexibility, and industrial decarbonisation within a densely populated and heavily industrialised island economy, the rest of the world, all the other economies in a similar situation, will want a piece of that. That is a huge exportable set of expertise, technologies, and hardware. So the opportunities are enormous. This is not just a risk. This is not just a rearguard action. This is stepping bravely forward into the future and grasping those opportunities. And I look forward to coming back in 10 years' time and celebrating that success. Thank you. I hope before 10 years.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kimmins, for your wonderful presentation.